What's up everybody, Jared here with carbuzz.com, and today I am bringing you a review of a 2023 Aston Martin Vantage, and this is the F1 edition. So we know that Aston Martin is now a Formula One team, and in this current season, the 2023 season, they are having a ton of success. They just opened the season with back-to-back third place finishes, challenging the likes of Red Bull, Mercedes, and Ferrari, which is a really big deal for this company. Now, Aston Martin has tried to put some of that success into one of their road cars by calling it the F1 edition and putting F1 badges on this car. We're gonna talk about what the F1 edition gets you, whether or not it's worth the price premium over a standard Vantage, and how it compares to some other sports cars on the market. So let's go ahead and start here at the front end, because you'll see we have the vaned grille. So the Vantage debuted with this mesh titanium grille. You cannot get that grille on the F1 edition. You can only get this vaned grille. You can pick the color. You can go for all black like this model has, or you can get silver streaks like the Vantage Roadster that I drove just a few weeks ago. I have to say, I've seen both. I love it all blacked out. I think this is the look that you want on your Vantage. Vaned grille, all blacked out. I think it looks much better than with the silver slots on this particular car. We also have this very aggressive, very cool front splitter diffuser here as part of an aero kit that's going to add about 440 pounds of downforce at top speed, which is a lot. It looks aggressive. People love how this looks. You can delete this if you want, but I think that kind of defeats the purpose of getting the Vantage as the F1 edition, and it looks really cool on this car. Just gives it that cool motorsports feel. On the F1 edition, we have a blacked out Aston Martin badge that I think just looks really cool and really sleek. We also have carbon fiber slots here in the hood, which are really neat. And of course, you've probably noticed this color. It is called Aston Martin Racing Green, and it has drawn so many stares. And you might be thinking, of course people are gonna look at it. It's an Aston Martin. But you'd kind of be wrong there. I just drove 2 weeks ago. Be sure to check the link in the description below. I'm gonna put that video in there so that you can see. I just drove a red Vantage Roadster, not an F1 edition. It's red, right? Red's a very attractive color. When I tell you, nobody looked at that car. I brought it to a Cars and Coffee. Very few people noticed it. I drove it around with the top down in Florida, you know, top down, like everybody's gonna stare at you. Not really. I have gotten so many thumbs up. I took it to a Cars and Coffee. It was the most stared at car, even though there were Lamborghinis, McLarens, what have you there. This got the most look because people were like, oh my God, that color is amazing. That wing is super crazy. We'll talk about it a little bit later. You have to get the Vantage F1 edition in this color. It only comes in 3 colors. You can get this green, you can get a white, and you can get a black, and there are matte versions of all 3. So if you want, you can get this in matte green, which I think would look really cool, to be honest, but do not get this car in black or white. I think you are losing a huge part of what makes this eye-catching. When you go to Costco in your Vantage and you come out and the cart boy is taking pictures of your car, you know that you've chosen the right color. Now, the only other thing that you can do here is you can get like a livery package that has like a sticker on the hood and some other stuff. I'd skip that. I think it looked good just the way it is. You also get these 21-inch wheels. 20-inch wheels are what comes on the standard Vantage, but you can get 21s on that car as well. You can get these in like a silver finish or an all black finish like what we have here. And we also have the optional carbon ceramic brakes, which I'll talk to you about a little bit later. This car also rides on P0 tires, which are stickier than what you get on a standard Vantage, but they're not as crazy as something like a Michelin Pilot Cup 2R. So they are aggressive tires, but they're not like semi-slicks or anything too crazy like that. Now, in addition to the carbon fiber that we have here on the hood, we've got carbon fiber here as well on these vents. We also have our F1 edition badge, which some people think looks a little bit kitschy. I don't know, I kind of think it's cool. I'm not really sure why. There's just something very cohesive about this car that I like. We've got this big fat rocker panel here as well. We've got carbon fiber here on this mirror, and we've also got carbon fiber on the hood on the F1 edition on the roof. That's gonna reduce and lower the center of gravity. And as we move around the back here, we'll see again, we have a blacked out Aston Martin badge, blacked out Aston Martin logo here. We've got the clear tail lights here. On the standard Vantage, I believe that's an option to get clear or red. I think that the F1 edition is only available as clear. You can see we've got our big wing back here. I think this looks so cool, especially with the little duckbill spoiler here. Everybody will ask you, oh my God, is that a Vantage with a wing on it? Just people aren't used to seeing an Aston Martin with a wing on the back. This is just super cool. Again, you can delete it if you think it looks a little bit much. Personally, I wouldn't. It's a whole reason why you get the F1 edition. We also have a much more aggressive splitter and diffuser down here. So we have, I think it's about $600. You can get the splitter in your body color. Definitely adds to the look of it, having the green slots down here. And of course we have this neat quad exhaust as well. So listen, when the Vantage Roadster, I just drove it, I didn't love how it looked. There's just something about the coupe with this color, with the wing, that really adds up, and now I absolutely love how the Vantage looks. Now, when you drive a car with a giant wing on the back, you probably aren't expecting it to be practical, but the coupe is surprisingly practical. Look how big this trunk is. I do have my backpack and my little drawstring bag in here just to give you a rough estimate of the size, but it is nicely deep. It is very capacious. You can fit a lot of suitcases in here, no problem at all. You're gonna get 12.4 cubic feet of storage, which compared to the Roadster, which only has 7 cubic feet of storage, this is just so practical. I did a Costco run in this. I was able to fit all of my stuff just fine. You also have this little parcel shelf up here that's super useful. You can see the stuff that's in here, so if you need to grab something real quick, you should put it up here. And then this part covers, so anything that's in here is going to be sealed off from the cabin. However, you can go ahead and just drop this down super easily. I love how easy that is to do. And now you have just one big super connected storage area. So that is a reason why I definitely prefer the Aston Martin Vantage Coupe over the Roadster. All right, so before we get it out on the road, I'm going to give you a brief tour of the interior. We're going to talk about what's different on the F1 edition. This is not going to be a super in-depth tour of the interior. If you want that, again, be sure to go check out my Vantage Roadster interior, where I talk about that a little bit more in that video. So we've got the sports seats as standard. These are optional on the standard Vantage, but the F1 edition is going to get them standard. You can also get a carbon fiber bucket seat, 6-way manual adjustment, so you're gonna lose the power adjustment. They look amazing, but they do not look as comfortable as this seat. Now you're gonna get suede on this as standard. We have the all black interior option. You can only get this Alcantara in the center with leather on the outside. There's no other way to option this seat. The only thing that you can get is a little accent here in the middle. This can be either green, red, or gray, but this one is just the all black. I would definitely add the green or the gray to add just a little splash of contrast, because this interior is very plain, very black. We've got lots of suede here on the door as well. I love these nice leather handles here. We've got very deep pockets here in terms of storage. We've got our F1 edition kick plate right here, Aston Martin F1 edition. And we also have our F1 edition badge. I do think that badge is a little cheap. That is not my favorite, but it looks fine. It does let you know that you have the Vantage F1 edition. We've got more suede here as well. We've got our same terrible cup holders, and we do have an optional suede headliner. This does not come standard, but that is optional. Let me go ahead and step on in. We'll go ahead and start it up. I'll shut the door. We do have our same weirdly square steering wheel here, but you do have suede on it instead of leather on the standard car. We do have the same terrible Mercedes-derived infotainment system with this little tiny 8-inch screen. You can see there's still a decent amount of glare on it, although it is better in the coupe that you don't have all the sunlight bombarding you. It was really, really bad on the convertible model. And that's pretty much it. You get a lot of buttons. There's not a lot that you do on the screen. You can do everything on these physical controls, which I like. Everything is just a quick reach and press away. We've got heated seats, no ventilated seats on the F1 edition, so you lose slight amount of comfort there. But other than that, this interior is not too much different than the standard Vantage, unless you get those crazy carbon fiber buckets, which I think if I were driving this all the time, I probably would not opt for those. All right, so time to get going in the 2023 Aston Martin Vantage F1 edition. And I'll first start off by explaining what exactly the F1 edition is and what you get with it. So this is still the 4-liter twin turbocharged base engine of the Vantage, but you get more power. 503 horsepower is what you get in the standard Vantage. The F1 edition is going to bump you up to 527 horsepower. Torque stays the same at 505 horsepower. And all Vantage models still use a 8-speed transaxle going out to the rear wheels. There's no all-wheel drive offered on the Vantage. But when you get the F1 edition, they have a new transmission tune that's supposed to get you faster shifts, more sustained torque through the rev band, so when you shift, you're not going to lose as much power as you would in the standard Vantage. And I do want to say that the 8-speed transmission tune is really good on this car. It does feel a little bit sharper, a little bit quicker than it does in the standard Vantage, which I just drove 2 weeks ago. However, I do kind of wish that Aston Martin would have gone for the 9-speed MCT that you get in the DBX 707. That just has razor sharp shifts that are like a dual clutch transmission. And for something called the F1 edition, I really think that this car was deserving of that 9-speed MCT. Not sure why Aston Martin wasn't able to get it for this car. Who knows, maybe it'll come in some kind of update. We know Aston Martin is allowed to use it, as evidenced by the DBX 707, and we know that it fits in a car of this size, as evidenced by the Mercedes AMG SL. So with that extra power, 527 horsepower, you are going to get from 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds, which is pretty darn quick, but it's only a 1/10 of a second quicker than the standard Vantage. There's really only so much you're going to be able to do when the 0 to 60 time is already that low and you only have rear wheel drive and you don't have all-wheel drive. So your launch is only going to get a little bit quicker. Your top speed, though, is pretty darn high, 195 miles an hour. And because we have that aero kit, the front splitter and the rear spoiler in the back, we get up to 440 pounds of downforce. That's only going to happen at very, very high speeds you're not likely to hit on the main road. I'm going to go ahead and put it into its track setting here. We've been driving around in sport mode, which is like the base driving mode. There's no grand touring mode on this car. You can tell the engine revs get a lot higher. The transmission is going to hold gears longer. And let's see what the launch feels like. Ready? Active. There we go. It rolls off, and then you're off with no drama whatsoever. That was a drama-free launch with the race start. Foot on the brake, foot on the gas, go. It rolls in because this car is rear-wheel drive. It's not going to be able to just rev it out, dump it from a high rev and hope for traction. It's just not going to do that. So it's not the type of terrifying launch that you'd get in something like a Nissan GTR, but it is extremely quick. And what's funny is there's now a model above this. The F1 edition was the top dog Vantage, but now there's going to be a limited edition V12 Vantage with the 5.2 liter twin turbo V12. That makes 690 horsepower. Huge horsepower jump over this car, but you only get from 0 to 60 2/10 of a second quicker. It is going to sound a lot different than this car, but just something to ponder if you're looking to get one of those limited edition V12 models. It's really not all that much faster. You're buying it for the bragging rights of having the V12 and the noise that you get. Now, the thing that makes the F1 edition is not just the extra power, it's the weight reduction. This car weighs 3,461 pounds at its lightest. I don't think that this car that we're driving is that light, because I think you do need to get those crazy carbon fiber seats. But what's impressive about the F1 edition is that it supposedly weighs the same as the standard Vantage, which is impressive given that you have a spoiler and a splitter which add weight, but then they've managed to take weight back out so that it doesn't actually gain any weight over the standard car. Now let's get into the fun stuff, how the F1 edition drives. Now, I won the scheduling lottery because I was able to drive the standard Vantage, albeit a convertible standard Vantage, just 2 weeks ago. So I have a fresh opinion of how that car drives compared to this F1 edition, and I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, there is a nice difference. This is a much more compelling driving experience. I don't know how much work these Pirelli P0 tires are doing in the whole package, but oh, more grip. Oh my gosh, it's more precise. The steering was great on the standard Vantage Roadster, and I don't know, I think it's even better here. It's so sharp on center. You have so much control over what that front end is doing. Oh man, this thing is a weapon. I love it. The transmission shifts are quicker. Again, I do wish I maybe had that 9-speed transmission, but I don't know. Let's go through it. That's about as quick as you could really want. And the steering is so good and precise. Oh, there's so much power. Imagine needing a V12 in this, but a V12 would be so cool in this. Oh, I'm just in the base sport suspension. I don't think that you need the Sport Plus or the track modes to have some fun. I like just the little amount of body roll that the regular sport suspension gives you. You can control the back end with the throttle. It is just very controllable on throttle, this car, and the steering is so accurate. This is, Aston Martin just knows how to do steering so well on all of their cars, and this one might be the best out of all of them, to be honest. Better than the bigger cars, the DBS and the DB11, definitely better than the DBX. Oh my God, the crack from that exhaust is crazy. Control it on throttle. You can induce oversteer. This car is a little less prone to oversteer, I feel like, than the standard car. Ooh, it is really good to drive. One minor thing that I've noticed here, on the standard Vantage, when I would click either of the buttons to change the suspension tuning or to change the overall drive modes, there was like a significant lag between when I hit the button and when it would actually change the drive mode. Now, sometimes when I hit the button, it still doesn't want to change modes. I think that's by design, because they're right on the steering wheel. I think Aston Martin doesn't want you to accidentally change your drive modes on the fly, but when I hit it here, it's been a little quicker to give me the mode that I want. So I think maybe they did do something with the F1 edition. I think people were complaining that the mode switch was a little bit too slow, and I do think that they did some kind of software correction to fix that. And what's amazing is if I now take it out of manual mode, I put both settings back into sport, it becomes a comfortable Aston Martin again. This may be riding on 21-inch wheels, and it may have a stiffer recalibrated suspension with increased dampening, spring, and bushing rates, but it doesn't feel any less comfortable than the standard Vantage, and that's amazing. I think maybe because this is the coupe and doesn't need as stiff of suspension, you know, because the chassis is more rigid or something, that this maybe feels more comfortable than the Roadster I drove, but I am telling you, the F1 edition is not like going from a standard 911 Carrera to like a GT3 RS. It is very comfortable and still very usable as a daily driver. Now we have the optional carbon ceramic brakes. They are an expensive option. They're the most expensive option that I have on this car, $11,700. And listen, they work really well. If you slam on them, they bring the car to a halt very quickly. They are very easy to use in traffic. I haven't noticed them being grabby. The pedal has really great feel for a carbon ceramic. I'm just not 100% sure I'd want to spend $11,000, but I guess at this price, who cares? And if you do the carbon ceramic and you're not tracking this car and you're just driving on the street, it'll probably last you the life of the vehicle. Listen, you are a little bit limited in terms of how you can option the F1 edition. It only comes in 3 colors. The interior is pretty much, you know, as it is. There's not much you can do there on the F1 edition. However, I really got to imagine that if you come to Aston Martin with a big enough check and say, I want the Q department to customize this for me. I want a different interior with more leather and less suede. I want a different color, although honestly, I don't know why you would get any other color besides this green. I'm pretty sure they would do it for you because Aston Martin likes money and they'll take it from you. There's no reason why they couldn't put all of that stuff into an F1 edition. So if you're looking at a Vantage and you're looking at the base model versus this F1 edition, I gotta tell you, there is no reason that you shouldn't do the F1 edition unless you really don't like attention, you don't like the big wing, which you can delete if you want. I think this is such an improvement over the regular car, which is already a really nice car to drive. There's no reason not to spend the extra money and get the F1. All right, so that was the 2023 Aston Martin Vantage F1 edition. Obviously, this is an Aston Martin, so you're not going to expect to be in the affordable price range, but believe it or not, it's actually a little bit less expensive than you might think. I'm gonna show you why. So the base Vantage Coupe, the regular standard car, is just under $160,000. This F1 edition is gonna start at just over $175,000. So it's about a $15,000 premium to go from a standard Vantage Coupe to the F1 edition. Now you can also get the F1 edition as a convertible. Not really sure why you'd do that. I think this car looks a lot better as a coupe. But even our car, as tested with the $11,000 brakes and all, is just about $195,000. That's including a $3,000 destination fee. Now the Vantage Roadster, not an F1 edition that I drove just a few weeks ago, was actually a little bit more than that. So I think you're getting a tremendous value here with the F1 edition, if you could call an Aston Martin a value. But honestly, with the way that Porsche prices have been going, GT3s and GT3 RSs, you're really not going to get either of those cars for anywhere near $195,000. In fact, I don't even know if you could get a GT4 RS sans dealer markup for under 200 grand. This is a lot of car. This draws so many stares everywhere it goes. I've driven a lot of Aston Martins and they've gotten looks, but none the way that this green Vantage F1 edition has. I think this is the most eye-catching Aston Martin I've ever driven. It's definitely one of the most driver-focused Aston Martins I've ever driven. And honestly, it has, I think, the lowest price tag of any Aston Martin I've ever driven. So the value that you get for it really is there, believe it or not. I really hope you've enjoyed this review of the 2023 Aston Martin Vantage F1 edition. For more videos like it, be sure to subscribe to our channel and leave a like on this video as well, and ring that notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos. I have another video of a red Aston Martin Vantage Roadster that I think you'll enjoy. And if you want to read more about this car, be sure to check out carbuzz.com. I'll see you next time.